Jen, thanks. Tonight, after weeks and weeks of delays and debates, state lawmakers in Albany, they have finally passed New York's $254 billion budget, more than a month after the original deadline.
Tonight, two major wins for Buffalo are in the new state budget, and there are hotel and parking reforms pushed by the acting mayor. We start with Channel 2's Dave McKinley to break down the scale of the budget and what it could mean for taxpayers. Dave?
Mary Alice, you could always go back all the way to the first term of Governor Andrew Cuomo, who 15 years ago said what New York State has is a spending problem. But those who hope that state spending might be brought under control through this budget might be disappointed. By the numbers, the state budget is a record breaker in terms of spending. At just over $250 billion, it is $13 billion higher than the last budget and almost as large as the budgets of two larger states, Texas and Florida, combined. That's hardly the stuff of responsible spending, says Southern Tier Republican Assemblyman Joe Sempolenski.
And we haven't had any movement toward reducing that growth. So that means that we have overall an enormous tax burden compared to our peer group states, and that makes us dramatically less competitive when we're trying to have people live their lives here in New York and not move away, or a business expand.
Beyond spending, critics say the budget takes steps to feather the nests of state legislators who 2 years ago voted to make themselves the highest paid in the nation. Because while that came with a $35,000 cap on outside income, they have now voted to delay the actual enforcement of that for another 2 years. Reinvent Albany, an advocacy group that calls for transparency and accountability in government, called it incumbents changing the rules of the game to benefit themselves in the dark of night. There's $10 million for taxpayer-funded legal fees for state officials who might be investigated by the Trump administration for actions taken during the course of their duties, but it was only added to the budget after the FBI opened an investigation into State Attorney General Tish James for alleged mortgage fraud.
What she is being investigated for has nothing to do with her job as Attorney General. It has to do with her private real estate transactions. So the idea that we're going to put potentially the New York State taxpayer on the hook for her private action being investigated, in my opinion, wildly inappropriate.
Still, the governor insists the budget brings needed investments in schools, parks, and struggling neighborhoods.